Oh yeah, baby. We are diving into the Brady Tkachuk situation one more time. Because with every new day comes a new idea, a new article that talks about the Ottawa Senators and their captain, Brady Tkachuk, a proud American and a guy who has ruffled the feathers of Sens fans throughout the course of the season. From his antics at the Olympics to what he was up to post-Olympics to what he was up to in the playoffs, where he literally wasn't really up to much. 0 points in 4 games in the sweep against Carolina. Brady Tkachuk's name has all of a sudden entered trade talk territory, and I don't want to say it's unjustified. With that said, we have ourselves Spectres hockey from May 2nd, 2026. This was from 2 days ago. And what this rumor mill goes over is the latest on the Ottawa Senators and what options Brady Tkachuk has and where he could get traded to. Let's dive into this article. It'll be linked in the description. First, we've got some analysis from Alex Adams on Sportsnet, looking into what Ottawa Senators GM Steve Staios must do to take his club to the next level. He believes Staios must re-sign Drake Batherson and Artem Zub to long-term deals. Zub has formed solid chemistry with Jake Sanderson, so obviously would want to keep that together. Adams notes the Senators need a scoring forward, an experienced left-shot D-man, a backup goalie, and a fourth-line center. They also need to determine if Claude Giroux intends to return or to retire. Yeah, there's a lot that the Ottawa Senators should probably go out there and do. But this video ain't about Sanderson or Giroux or Batherson or whatever. Let's skip over here to The Athletic, where Vincent C. Mercogliano noted that the Brady Tkachuk and Steve Staios side both denied the trade rumors linking the Senators captain to the New York Rangers. However, until Tkachuk signs a contract extension, the speculation will likely persist. That's a pretty big point, too. It's almost like we have the potential to see a cut-and-paste scenario repeated from the Quinn Hughes discourse a few months ago. Brady Tkachuk is signed on till the end of 2027-2028 with trade protection, meaning that he's only eligible to sign an extension for 28 and beyond next summer. It's like the exact same Quinn Hughes thing, except a year in advance. Brady Tkachuk, of course, has not verbally committed his long-term commitment to the Ottawa Senators, and until he does that, until he actually signs a deal, there's a lot of reason to believe that speculation is going to run wild here. Speaking of the wild, if the Senators trade Brady Tkachuk, Mercogliano believes the Rangers, Panthers, Devils, and Wild could be among the suitors. However, the substantial cost of acquiring Tkachuk might not turn the Rangers back into contenders. He believes it's not worth it for the cost of selling what's left of a failing farm system for a quick fix. Now, if you're unaware, Vince C. Mercogliano primarily does New York Rangers beat reporting, which is why there's a heavy emphasis on the Rangers here. But I'm thinking about it like this. Brady Tkachuk, he would fit in my mind mentally as a Florida Panther, and he also would fit as a Ranger. I'd say that he looks good in a Wild sweater, but ultimately all these teams that he could be sent to, they're all American teams, and that's by design. The idea of Brady Tkachuk playing under the captaincy of JT Miller, for some reason that just fits in my brain. The idea of Brady playing with his brother in Florida also fits, and then the idea of the Wild fits debatably the most because we have already made conversations known on this YouTube channel about Brady Tkachuk and the potential of him heading over to Minnesota, and there was this conversation that said that him and or Matthews could be future Wild players joining Quinn Hughes as Canadian team captains that defected over to the US. Okay, maybe that's the wrong word to use there, but still, it wouldn't be the first time a Canadian team's captain who happens to be an American guy went over to Minnesota. Also, if Minnesota ends up losing out on Quinn Hughes, acquiring a guy like Brady Tkachuk might just be the ultimate antidote to having Quinn stick around in Mini. Either way, I digress. Let's go back over to the article and read Spector's note. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Brady Tkachuk next summer when he is eligible to sign a contract extension. If he is reluctant to sign, the Sens will likely shop him for the best deal available rather than lose him to free agency for nothing in 2028. A trade to the Rangers could be possible if they're the only club Tkachuk would waive his no-movement clause for, but that's not an uncertainty. And as Mercogliano points out, acquiring Tkachuk could come at the cost of short-circuiting their efforts to retool the roster. Now, I don't necessarily think that Brady would be only focused on New York. I do think that all of these teams have stuff to offer. The Rangers with the Miller connection, the Panthers with the Brady connection, and then the Hugheses in New Jersey and Minnesota. You gotta remember, the Hugheses and the Tkachuks are really tight. Brady is not just tight with Quinn, he's tight with Jack too. And I would assume Luke is in there a little bit as well, although I'm not going to speculate on familial dynamics from the outside. You just got to remember that Brady Tkachuk, this is a guy that essentially grew up in the NTDP system with Quinn Hughes. And then Jack Hughes, obviously the younger brother, is in there as well. And then you have the American story of them at the Olympics doing what they had done, and then the Four Nations as well. I mean, just take a blast to the past to the US NTDP of 2016-17. Brady Tkachuk and Quinn Hughes, if I'm not mistaken, they were roommates in this time period. They went to different colleges, of course, but their days with the Plymouth-based NTDP saw some very good success out of them and their brothers inevitably too. But Brady Tkachuk, as a guy who plays the hard-nosed style that he has, who was unfortunately a disappointment for Ottawa in this year's playoff run, whilst being a point-per-game guy in the regular season, this is all of a sudden one of the hottest stories when it comes to potential players on the move in the off-season. We had already made a bunch of videos talking about Austin Matthews. Connor McDavid's name could be tossed in there next. This is essentially what Frank Saravalli was talking about on that Sportsnet 650 radio segment that he had last week. You talk about Brady Tkachuk, what's going to happen with him. You talk about Austin Matthews, how does he look, and how does he feel if John Chayka gets brought in, which happened. You talk about the future of Connor McDavid, and then you still have all the uncertainty, which I think has grown even further with the Jason Robertson Dallas Stars situation. There is a chance that this offseason looks incredibly impactful from the outside looking in. We could see some big names get moved around. We could see some blockbuster moves. And if Brady Tkachuk is involved in one of these, potentially going over to Florida to regroup with his brother, let's say the Ottawa Senators end up getting the 8th overall pick because Florida trades it over to them, there is a legitimate path here for Florida to lock and load with this draft pick. And if Brady Tkachuk is involved, oh boy, you best better believe it's going to be an interesting few months in the Atlantic Division next season. You could also say that these teams here could make things work. I mean, the New York Rangers, 3rd overall. If they trade that pick for Brady Tkachuk, then I don't think they have to add anything else, really. Trade away 3rd overall for Brady. You get this win-now piece on your team. Ottawa gets a really nice young player, Stenberg or Caleb Malholtra or whatever, and that's your center replacement behind Timmy Stu. Who really knows? There are a number of options here, so if you're a fan of the Devils, the Panthers, the Wild, the Rangers, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about this Brady Tkachuk trade talk, linking him to your teams? Devils fans as well, I'm thinking about the disappointment that was out of Timo Meier, for example, this season. Having Meier and Brady Tkachuk on the same team would be a nightmare. Both of these guys feeding off of the playmaking of Hughes and Brott, and with Luke Hughes on the back end becoming what he is too, there's a lot to like out of New Jersey and their American future. So with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're a Sens fan, which team would you like to see Brady get traded to the most if we are just talking about it from a trade return point of view? Obviously, I'd say a number of Sens fans want to keep this guy. But if that's just not possible, which team do you think has the best pitch and the best to return to Ottawa? New York, New Jersey, Florida, or Mini? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.